Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Folks, the time has come to start cooling it, okay? Let's stop calling each other names, myself included. Let's stop the blame game. It's very clear that there is no middle ground here, okay? But let's start by agreeing on something, and that is that, listen, if you're on the left of the political spectrum, you're a Trudeau supporter, you are of the firm opinion that for the most part, this truck convoy is just a bunch of knuckle-dragging, slobbering, redneck, would-be terrorists. The whole business. We've gone through it all. If, on the other hand, you are not a Trudeau fan, then you think the truckers are nothing more, for the most part, than hardworking men and women who have been subjected to a hostile press and a few nutcases walking around trying to sully their position. There's no middle ground here. John, you said this earlier. There's just no middle ground.
Nope.
Positions are firmly entrenched, and I don't see them changing now or even until the next election. You either, as a Trudeau supporter, you are opposed to what's happening here. You think it's terrible. You're buying all of the lines. If you are not a Trudeau supporter, then you think the truckers are getting a bad deal here. So let's just leave it at that. Agree on that, okay? Agree to disagree. Let's move on. No middle ground. So I'm thinking this morning, what are some of the things that we can agree on? Or most of us. I mean, nobody's ever going to agree to everything, okay? So let's see if we can find some common ground here. And I think I found a little bit. You may disagree, some of you. That's fine. While the country is very badly divided, I mean, it's terribly divided. It's sad, east, west, anti-vax, vax, et cetera, et cetera. You know, all of the divisions that are out there. There does, however, seem to be growing agreement that the time has come to either ease up or totally abandon all COVID restrictions, relax them altogether. There seems to be a growing sentiment in that regard. Even our own Ontario Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Moore, says the time has come when we've got to learn to live with COVID. It's here to stay. It's not going to go away, but we've got to get on with our lives. So when the medical officer of Ontario makes statements like that, I suspect that a lot of people, right, left, center, agree with that. The time has come to either ease up or abandon them altogether, perhaps gradually, but and I think there is also agreement that no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, Trudeau supporter or not, I think there is a growing awareness that some of the restrictions, some of the rules really don't make any sense. I know I keep coming back to this, but it seems to me to be a prime example of something that makes absolutely no sense. I challenge Premier Doug Ford, a friend of mine, and who I still support, but I challenge him to provide to me and to you the scientific evidence justifying the fact that in an 18,000-seat arena last night, the Ottawa Senators played to 500 people. What's the rationale? That's the kind of thing that gets people thinking, wait a minute, like, where's the sense in that? Hell's bells, you see more than 500 people on almost any given day in the local Costco or Walmart, shoulder to shoulder. The restrictions. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't care where you stand. I'm sure that the great majority of you people out there realize that something like that makes no sense. While arenas and stadiums in the United States, almost within arm's length of where I sit and where you sit, they resonate on any given day or night, particularly on a Sunday, with thousands of happy, cheering, unmasked fans. Whereas here in Ontario, at least, the Toronto Raptors, the Ottawa Senators, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens play to arenas that echo with nothing. I mean, they echo with memories. There's 500 people. It don't even make a hell of an echo. It the time has come to change this. Things like that, and there are many others. And also, I think that there is agreement, right or left, that it's been totally unfair to target, for example, restaurants, bars, and small businesses, while the giants, Costco, Walmart, etc., have thrived. I mentioned yesterday, and this is something that strikes at my heart, but it's indicative of, I think, that most of us can agree on, that it is wrong that Costco, for example, was continued to allow to sell books while little bookstores, poor little mom and pop operations, were shut down. That that wasn't right. And we put up with it. And I said this, yeah, we put up with it because we thought at the time, well, we've got to listen to the experts here. This is a very serious fight. But I think the time has come when people realize, you know what, this has got to stop. With Delta, okay, some justification, but let's be honest, this new variant, Omicron, is not nearly as serious for most people. Certainly, if you've been vaccinated, it's not nearly as serious, 99.9% of the time. So I think there's some agreement there. But generally speaking, I think the agreement, and I'd like your opinion on this, is the time has come to let us get back as quickly as possible to a normal or as near normal life as we can. The Americans have been living a normal life now for many months, and the death toll is higher, there's no question. But I mean, for the most part, it doesn't seem to worry them. And one of the reasons, of course, is that they have lots of hospital beds. They're not worried in the United States. At one point, for a brief period with Delta, they were worried, but for the most part, they haven't been concerned about jamming hospitals because there are plenty of hospital beds. And I think this is something else that most of us, I would be very surprised if almost 100% of Canadians cannot agree on this. And that is that we've got to buckle down. We've got to stop spending all of this money and attention only on green energy. Continue some if you want, but we've got to rebuild a healthcare system into a modern, world-class healthcare system that we Canadians all deserve. And by the way, when I talk about a healthcare system, I am talking about the basic home care. We've got to provide far more workers so that more people can convalesce or have palliative care in their home, gets them out of the hospitals. We've got to greatly improve. Surely you must all agree that we've got to greatly improve the kind of service, the kind of treatment we are providing in long-term care after all of these years. We've got to build more hospital beds. We have to better fund. We have to modernize. We need far more nurses. We need to pay the nurses more. We need to pay the personal workers more for and the long-term care. We have to modernize. We have to create. We have to buckle down. Finally, decide that the number one priority, I'd be very surprised if everybody in this country doesn't agree with me, that the number one, the number one priority in Canada today should be to rebuild, to recreate a world-class, modern, efficient hospital and healthcare system. I'd be very surprised if anybody disagrees with that. Now, that means that some of you people, the environmentalists, you're going to have to take a second seat for a while. You've had a first class seat the front seat, the only seat in many cases for many years now. The time we've got to stop. We've got to concentrate on healthcare. Right, as I say, right from the basics, home care right on up. All right. I think everybody could agree on that. Everybody also, I think, agree, or, well, I think most people, reasonable people, agree that we should continue trying to do our best to get everybody vaccinated, to get as many people vaccinated as possible. If you don't want to get vaccinated, well, that is your right. Nobody's ever forced you to do it. Yes, some impediments have been placed in your path, but I'll tell you something else that I think an increasing number of us are having a lot of trouble with, and that is the cessation or postponement of, in some cases, life-saving surgery for things like cancer. I mean, I think that many Canadians have been shocked to find out that that women with breast cancer who desperately need surgery or treatment have been postponed in order to accommodate COVID patients. And in almost every instance, certainly recently, the COVID patients that have been accommodated have been unvaccinated. I don't know what the solution. Everybody deserves to be treated, but something's got to be done about the fact that hospital beds are being taken up by people who choose not to be vaccinated. That's They've got a right to do that. But to tell people with cancer that they must postpone their surgery, perhaps costing them their lives in order to accommodate, I think most of us can agree that even people who aren't vaccinated, I think most reasonable, decent hearted people would agree that that's not right. Something's got to be done. I'm not a health expert, but they've got to deal with that. The time has come to stop postponing and canceling life-saving surgeries. And in many cases, even surgeries that alleviate pain. Hip, knee replacements, for example, people having to wait 2 or 3 years in abject pain. Their lives, I mean, you talk about people are mad because honking horns uptown. How would you like to live for 2 or 3 years with a knee so painful that you can't sleep at night? And that you can't get a surgery because the hospital beds are filled with COVID patients. So, I think most people would agree that's not right as well. Um, I, there may be some other aspects that we agree on. I think one of the things we agree on is that we we've got some problems in this country that have got to be resolved. That the divisions. I've been around this country for 85 years. I've been a broadcaster, a writer, journalist for what, about 55 or 60 of those years. And I can tell you that I have never seen the kind of divisions, in some cases, the heart wrenching divisions that we see today, the vilification of various groups of people, et cetera, et cetera. And I think most of us would agree that we've somehow or other got to get back to not only living our lives again, but we've got to stop this yelling at each other. We've got to, you know what we desperately need? And I think that everybody will agree with this. We need leaders at every level in this country who work to bring us together, not to divide us, not to yell at certain groups of people or disparage them or denigrate them. We need leaders at every level, municipal, that includes Jim Watson. I'm really surprised and disappointed with some of the things that he has said recently. Um, so at every level, municipal, provincial, federal, and yes, in our hospitals and healthcare system, we need leaders who understand that there are disagreements out there, honest disagreements in most cases. We've got to do something to try and bring people together, bring this country back together again. Anybody agree with that? John, any response coming in as yet?
Just a few, Lowell. Yeah, we're busy once again, which is great. And you know what? I'm getting a real sense that the whole idea of cooling the temperature a little bit here is really resonating with people. Keep posting your comments, folks. I gotta get over my other screen here so I can read some of these to Lowell. By the way, feel free to. You want to have conversations? You want to find that middle ground? This is one of the only shows I know that invites you to actually call and participate. So here's the number: 613-413-2217. An email at Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Nicole, I love to hear you. We need you here. Thank you to have the guts to speak. Joshua says, I think that's the saddest part of freedom. I think that's the saddest part. Freedom should have no political lines. Anne says the elites, liberals, NDP, think that anybody to the right is a moron. So what's a person to do? Robin says there's some of us staying out of all of it to keep our sanity under the stress of COVID. Paul chimes in on Facebook. He says they've been blaring their horns in my neighborhood all day and well into the night. This is not a peaceful protest. This is an occupation, and it's taking its toll on everyone living and working downtown. I have not slept in days.
Can I ask the author of that?
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I understand your concern. You do live in the downtown area, and as such, you're subjected to honking horns at any time pretty well. But what did you do? Did you phone or write anybody when businesses in your neighborhood were shut down? This is one of the things that concerns me. Okay, your ox is being gored, your street's being honked. I understand that. But I mean, while all of this is going on, businesses around you have gone into bankruptcy. Can you imagine you're the owner of a sports team and you're not allowed to have any fans in? As just one example, how do you think little bookstores feel when they're not allowed to sell books, but Costco is selling hundreds of them every single day? So what I'm saying is that there are a lot of grievances out there, and maybe honking horns for 2 or 3 days is not the greatest of them. I understand, but maybe there's some. How would you like to have a bad knee, such a painful knee that you can't sleep? And I've gone through this. A knee so painful that you've got to take medication, you can't sleep at night, or a hip. And this goes on for 2 or 3 years because you can't get a hospital bed. So there are some other people out there who are suffering a hell of a lot more than 3 or 4 nights of horn honking. Okay, go ahead, please, John.
Yep, Paul follows up to say, sorry, Lowell, this is not normal city noise. And he adds, my friends have had to close their businesses in this neighborhood. Yeah, I early on in this protest, I said, hey, you chose to live downtown. Now you're starting to sound like the people in the Glebe. Except, you know what? You didn't sign up for diesel fumes in your house and 24-hour honking. I'm empathetic to it, but yeah. On the other hand, it's Parliament Hill, and we got to expect protests. I don't know. Let me see. Chrissy, $800,000 a day for the police force to monitor the situation downtown still. How long is this going to go on for? Glenn says, right now, the current sitting government is dividing us Canadians apart into so many fractions and groups.
Let me comment on the $800,000 a day. I don't know where they get that figure, but let me point something out.
Didn't Mayor Watson put that figure out there?
Could be. Let me point something out, that there were very few protests when in February of 2020, natives, Aboriginals near Prescott blocked, and also down near Montreal, blocked the main CN line between Montreal and Toronto. 24,000 people had to find different ways to travel, great inconvenience. And it cost this country, but by that I mean the taxpayers, tens of billions of dollars. And in fact, I think in some ways is still affecting the economy of this country. So, I mean, I didn't hear anybody complaining about all of the lost money. It took police 2 weeks to finally clear the railway track. 2 solid weeks. So I just point this out. So what I'm saying is that when you realize things like that, you begin to realize some of the grievances that some of us have, including some of the truckers. Okay, I understand $800,000 a day. Do you understand maybe $10 billion a week or more because the natives have been allowed to block a rail? I mean, I remember a time when they even set fires next to moving trains. Do you remember that? No attempt by the police to stop it. Go ahead, please, John.
Workman John is in to say, have you ever heard or seen the phrase far left or alt left? Me either. These people are like fish. They have no idea of the media they live in. Anyone to the right of their thinking is alien to them and thus scary and well sad.
What I'd like is some response to my trying to find the middle ground. Do you agree or disagree with me that the time has come to either relax the restrictions or begin to abandon them entirely? Am I correct in saying the time has come? Enough is enough. That's really what I'm asking here. Can we at least agree on that? The time has come. The truckers in this, at least, or anybody is right. It's time to relax at the very least many of these restrictions. Any views on that? Go ahead, John, please.
Debbie answers your question. She says, yes, relax the restrictions. Jeanette says, yes, the time has come. I'm sorry that guy at 1010 was fired. He's a nice man. I think other people are having private conversations. Sorry, I'm reading these as they pop up on the screen here. Enough, says David. Yes, 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 says Leanne. Christina says, we can relax the restrictions now. No one is social distancing nor wearing masks at the protest. You are correct, Lowell. Just let us abandon the restrictions. Kathy says, open Canada up. So
Good.
it seems to
Hallelujah.
be unanimous.
That's what I'm saying. I think we finally found something that the great overwhelming majority of Canadians can agree on, and that is time to relax, time to let us get back. Enough is enough. For more than 2 years now, we've done what we were told to do, or most of us. We've been vaccinated. We've distanced ourselves. We wear our masks. We've canceled Christmas, birthdays, all the rest of it. We've done all of this. Now, almost all of us are vaccinated. We have a virus that's not nearly as deadly as the other one. Time to let us get back to life. Please, go ahead, John.
Linda says it's time to live. Paul is back to say, call up your buddy Doug and ask him why his restrictions only affected small business and not Walmart, Loblaws, etc. I want to see things open up. Robin says, I'll be in favor of relaxing restrictions when folks are no longer getting sick or dying. Christina says, please keep the restrictions for one more month.
Yeah, let me address that when people aren't sick or dying. We're studying. People are sick and die with the flu. They've been doing it all along. They're going to continue to get sick and die, particularly those who are unvaccinated. I don't know about you, but if you choose not to be vaccinated and as a consequence become very sick, I have some difficulty in having much empathy for you. I'm sorry. And I think that is the bulk of if you check the records now, you will see not all, but the bulk of those in hospital, the bulk of those in ICU are unvaccinated. Some exceptions, but very few. So let's just keep that in mind, okay? We're always going to have people who are unvaccinated, so we're always going to have people who get sick and die. Go ahead, John.
There you go. Paul's agreeing with you. How about a word for our sponsors at Shields? Well, we got to get that in here at some point, too.
Shields.
Sorry, kind of put you on the spot there.
No, not at all. I just, when we're talking about good people who want to do the right thing, let's talk about small business, because Shields is a small business. Now they sell a lot of appliances. There's no question. They've been at it a long, long time, but in order to be successful, particularly in a town like Ottawa, Ottawa's a big city, but in many ways it's kind of a small town because a lot of people know each other. So in order for you to be successful, to stay in business for any length of time, you've got to do business the right way. You've got to provide fair prices. You've got to provide good service. You've got to be honest. Your product has to be good, and the prices have to be competitive. And that's one of the reasons why Shields has been so successful and has been around since 1947. They are all of those things. They are honest. The products are, the brand names, all the different price ranges, the different products. Delivery is, I keep getting calls all the time about how great the delivery is. And 99% of the time, they have in stock exactly what you want. Check them out, folks. They're good. They're honest. They've got good products, very fair prices, and they'll probably deliver whatever you want within, 2 or 3 days. Shields.ca. John.
Kelly says many unvaxxed get the COVID and have an okay time, just like those who are vaxxed.
Yeah, very true.
Glenn says both federal and provincial governments are afraid to stand ground. There is a rebel faction called AIM, and their agenda is to raise hell, and usually not with the band's approval. Look at Cayuga, Ipperwash, and Ola, to name a few. Let me see. Not true, says Jeanette, the bulk of unvaxxed being in hospital. Craig says, are you without empathy to those that have a medical issue preventing them from the vaccine and might become ill, Lowell?
Oh, you know that, Craig. That if you have a legitimate medical reason not to get it, then I have every sympathy. You know very well. Don't pin me with that. That most people, let's face it, the great overwhelming majority of people who don't get vaccinated do so because they don't want to. Okay, that's your right. I've never denied that. I've never suggested. In fact, I fought against the idea of having everybody having to be vaccinated. I am opposed to that. But the chances are, and check the hospital records, the chances are, if you are unvaccinated, you are much more likely, some exclusions, but much more likely to be hospitalized, much more likely to die from COVID if you are unvaccinated than if you are vaccinated. Go ahead.
Darlene says this is the second time Trudeau got COVID. He had to quarantine himself at the beginning of the pandemic. I will answer that. No, that is not true. His wife got COVID the first time around. He had to isolate because she had COVID. This is his first time with it. Sharif says vaccine is not the answer. The government have doubled standards. Welfare payment recipients must be vaccinated.
I don't want to get into, you know what? I'm sorry, I don't want to get into this argument. Look, positions are hardened. You don't want to get vaccinated. That's your right. Okay. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We've debated this. Surely you must agree with me if you're unvaccinated that what I'm saying is here, forget your differences and so forth. Do you think it's time that we get back to normal, that we relax some restrictions here? Why do you want to argue with me again? When I'm probably saying something you agree with. That's the point of the program today. Has the time come to start relaxing or perhaps abandoning these restrictions entirely? That's the question of the day. So don't try to pin me on vaccinations. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Kind of, like a
Yeah,
bulletproof.
we know what the argument is over. Okay, you believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. Okay, but let's move on.
Here's a bulletproof vest. You want to wear it? Wear it. If you don't, good luck to you.
Yeah, let's move on.
An email from Lisa Lowell. I think most people with health issues won't take the chance of being out in large groups. For the rest of you, let the chips fall where they may. As for healthcare and infrastructure, look at the continent of Africa. They're more metropolitan than a lot of Canada for the most part, including high-speed light rail, zigzagging between countries, pipelines carrying petroleum products, highways, and freeways. Billy, I think this is the first time we've heard from you. Masks, vaccines, and passports do not work. Stop being brainwashed. Looks like you...
Get lost. Yeah, I don't want to hear that anymore. Okay,
All right.
That's not the issue here. I understand where you are. You don't want to get fine. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the question, and the other thing that I'm asking here, which I'm very surprised people are not responding to, has the time come to start creating a modern, up-to-date, world-class healthcare system? Or do you think we have a world-class healthcare system here? Why are you people attacking me on vaccines, which is an old argument? Okay, let's move on. Whether you believe in vaccines or Jesus or the angel, I don't care. Do you think the time has come to relax some of the restrictions? Do you think the time has come to buckle down and create a healthcare system that this country is worthy of? Those are the questions. Please go ahead.
You mean the healthcare system that we think we actually paid for? That healthcare system?
Yeah.
Debbie says yes to modern, updated healthcare. Jeanette says we need major improvements in the healthcare system. Ray says looks like O'Toole is going to get the boot. Kim says I agree that the healthcare system needs a full redo. It is in dire need. Glenn says we need to fix our healthcare and medical system now.
Good. It's so hard to get people to address the real issue. They've got these old grievances. I don't agree with vaccines, so let's fry. Let's tack Lowell there to the burning cross or whatever the hell it is. Come on, move on. You know where I stand. I know where you stand. Fine. Okay. We can still talk with each other. Still have a beer together. But the question here is overriding the question. It seems to me is we've got a healthcare system that costs us more than most other countries per capita and is declining rapidly, that very clearly can't handle the job. Please go ahead, John.
So somebody's asking, what are your suggestions about a new healthcare system?
Well, I say we have to. I've already made suggestions. We've got to hire more nurses. We got to pay them more. We've got to hire and train more public personal service workers, whatever they call it, PSWs. We've got to make sure that those people who would like to convalesce or die in their homes can do so. That there's help there. Pay them more. And in other words, what we've got to do is stop spending billions on windmills and solar panels and electric cars and electric diesel or buses and all the rest of it. We've got to concentrate on the real problem here. We have a healthcare system that is failing us badly, that is now listed as about the 20th in the Western world. It's the healthcare system. That's the number one. I'm going to tell you right now, the main reason we had lockdowns for the most part was because our healthcare system couldn't handle a little bit of a bump from COVID. That's why the Americans didn't have to shut down, because their hospitals can handle it. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant with a bus that shows up in the parking lot, and their answer is close the damn restaurant. We don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Healthcare system needs reform, but it means 2 tiers, public and private. Otherwise, we break the tax system, says
Absolutely.
Patrick.
It's already public and private. I mean, come on. Does OHIP cover your dental? I mean, I can go to a private. I can go to a private clinic, and I have, for an X-ray. I can go to a private clinic for blood work, but I can't go to a private clinic for an MRI or to get a new hip. Didn't make any sense. Go ahead.
Our hockey players in the NHL certainly seem to find private health care, don't they?
Oh, sure.
Now, they've got the means to pay for it, of course. Hines says, all I want is the truth. I feel like I'm being told misinformation from all sides. Restrictions should stay in place if they are equal. It seems there are different rules for different retailers. Mandates are a bone of contention. No citizen wants the government to impose its will on the people without proper parliamentary procedures. If the government would have an honest vote, the people will not revolt.
Yeah, well, that's all very well, but what's your position on any of this? That's, what do we need a better healthcare system? Do we need to start relaxing? John, we're right out of time. Thank you all, folks. I just ask that we cool it down, okay? I think most people, your positions are hardened, probably won't change between now and the time that you vote. That's understandable, but we're Canadians here. We've got some common problems, and I think there are some common understandings. Let's concentrate on them, just for the hell of it. Thank you. We'll be back.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.